Hey, I'm Ruji, and today we're joined with
Daniel.
And I'm Ruji. Welcome to the Vegan Ambition podcast number 1. Today's main question is, what is your view on honey? But before we start, I'd like to thank today's sponsors. I'd like to thank red lentils, broccoli, and of course avocado toast. But before we start, I'd like to introduce some things as this is the first podcast. So hey everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of the Vegan Ambition. This podcast is a tool to help vegans, vegetarians, and anyone else who is interested in the vegan lifestyle. On this podcast, we will have a different guest every week or every 2 weeks, and we're going to discuss a topic on veganism, and we will debate different viewpoints. The Vegan Ambition is a no-pressure zone and a no-hostility zone. We don't pressure our guests here, but are simply here to discuss different viewpoints. I hope you'll join us on this journey, and remember, education is our biggest goal here. Now, if you don't know me already, I'm Ruji, and I've been vegan for over a year. Not a perfect vegan, but I'm trying to become one. Hopefully, you can join me and see how my veganism changes and shifts and learn something new in the process. And I'm going to be your host. And this is Daniel. He's our guest for today. Daniel's been vegetarian since he was, 14? Is that right?
Yeah, somewhere around there. Grade 9. Yeah.
So why don't you tell us more about yourself, Daniel?
Sure. Well, the one thing I feel like when you talk to other vegans love trading stories about how they became vegan, and my story is slightly embarrassing, and it's a story that when you tell to other vegans, they roll their eyes at you. I was in grade 9 and there was like a theater show happening at my high school. I was in grade 9, of course. I was not in the theater show, but I decided to stick around for some pizza afterwards because they didn't know who anybody was. I was a little anonymous boy. And there was pepperoni pizza and cheese pizza. And I was with my friend Sam, and he said, I bet you can't go without eating meat to get me to eat the cheese pizza. And I went, yes, I can go without eating meat. And from that day on, I became vegetarian. And it was a cold turkey move, and it worked really well. I relapsed once, 2 weeks later, when I just, sat down with my family to eat breakfast, and I just ate some bacon, just muscle memory. And I was like, what am I doing? But it's an embarrassing story. But from that point on, I really researched it and developed some. First, it was animal rights, ethical reasons, and then kind of as I grew more, it was more environmentalism. But the morality kind of came afterwards. But at the beginning, it was a bet. And when I tell other vegans that, I think I lose some cred.
But you're still vegetarian.
I'm still vegetarian. I'm not
right.
Totally vegan. I'm lactose intolerant, so I don't eat cheese or dairy. But I'm pretty relaxed about eggs and stuff. But it's kind of a whole mess of I try and be vegan as much as possible.
So for today's purposes, you're vegetarian. Obviously.
I'm vegetarian. Yeah, I'm not a vegan. I'm not a true vegan. I'm not a pure.
Now,
a pure vegan.
Now, I'm curious because I don't actually know this about you. Because a lot of vegans, they're very careful with things like gelatin, honey, etc., etc. You are not, am I right?
I'm not that careful. I mean, and I think it's also because I'm not a true vegan. There's been periods where I've been a true vegan, and I've been very careful about that. And I try to be too. I try and stay away from gelatin, or when people buy me things, I try and make sure it's vegan. But generally, I'm pretty loose about all of it. I have my cheats. See, I'm all over the map. I have my cheats. At Thanksgiving, I'll eat stuffing. Usually, the stuffing's prepared not with meat or anything. But I think my one grandma does. And I mean, it's not meat, but it comes into contact with meat, and I have that. I also have some gravy at Thanksgiving. But those are my 2 cheat things, and that's because I'm with family, and family trumps all, right?
Right. And I understand. I mean, there's a lot of difficulty when it comes to family, and when it comes to those situations to just give up things or tell your grandparents, be like, no, I can't eat this.
It depends on how picky you want to be, right?
Yeah,
because they're already making me my own stuffing, but it comes into contact with me, and you're like, well, I don't need to tell my grandma as she's cooked for 30 people to be like, actually, can we use a different spatula for this?
It's totally a challenge. I get it. I had a similar problem in Hong Kong where, because for those of you who don't know, I just came back from Hong Kong. Actually, Daniel just came back from Spain.
I did. That'd be something interesting to talk about.
We'll get to that in a second, I think.
Okay.
But in Hong Kong, I mean, I was as vegan as possible, but sometimes you just don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what these people in the canteen are doing with, the utensils. It's like impossible.
Yeah.
And because you can't communicate in the language.
The language barrier is also a big issue.
Yeah, which I can't most of the time. It's like already asking for something vegan is like so hard, and then being like, oh, just please don't use. Oh, they already did it.
I remember when I went to Guatemala years and years ago, I was with a group of people and they weren't vegetarian. I was vegetarian. And this was even before I was lactose intolerant. But I was with this like I was in this like little town, and they were like cooking for us, and they made like chicken for everybody. And I was like going out, I was like, oh no, I'm a vegetarian, like I'm vegetarian. And so they like, I mean, they definitely wouldn't have substitutes for it, but it was just so funny because everybody else had chicken legs, and they just gave me the biggest like a mixing bowl just full of like potato, just a bowl full of like potato and carrots, more than any human being could eat. They're like vegetables. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah. People are really funny with that stuff sometimes, where they especially don't understand, and there's a language barrier. I mean, in some places that would happen to me in Asia too, where I'd just be like, they just give me the same thing, and I'm just like, okay, I'll just eat like 4 tons of broccoli.
Yeah, I guess we're all.
But broccoli's today's sponsor, so obviously we love broccoli.
better watch out with the sponsors. Huh?
Yeah. I mean, we'll get to our sponsor call in a little bit.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So how was it in Spain? Tell me about your diet, your process there, right now you're as vegan as possible, or mostly.
I'm not a true vegan, but I try and be as vegan as possible.
You don't eat eggs anymore, do you? Because I remember a couple of years ago we talked about this.
I don't eat them. I don't really buy them. Like I'm pretty lax if I'm buying food and it's come into contact. Like it uses eggs, but I try and stay away. Right. Maybe that's my modus operandi. I'm like, I try and stay away, but if something sneaks into my life, I also like. A couple of days ago, I had cheese and it made me feel really gross inside, but I was ordering this like sandwich and I asked for no cheese, and it was like a roasted sandwich and there was cheese on it, and it was only like a little bit of cheese, and I tried to like pick it off, and then at a point I was like, well, I can't pick it off, and I am not going to walk over to these people and be like, I want a new sandwich, because that makes me way too anxious.
I do that all the time.
I could not, so I was just like,
that's a barrier you get over once you go vegan.
I guess that's true. But like I was like, well, I guess this is what I'm doing. I will have an upset stomach, but I will be eating this sandwich because I paid for it.
Yeah.
But that speaks more about me than about veganism in general, I think.
And how come, I'm just curious because I don't know if you've ever mentioned this to me.
Yeah.
But how come you don't want to go all the way?
Go all the way? It's difficult. I found it's just so difficult to me, and it's easier when I'm cooking for myself. Like when I was in Spain, it was really easy because I was cooking like all my own meals.
And one of our friends who you were with was also vegetarian.
Yeah, she's vegetarian too. So actually that was great because before, like usually I'd go with people who were not vegetarian, and so then you're kind of stuck having your own whatever the side, like whatever dish the one vegetarian or vegan dish on the menu is.
Yeah.
But living with another vegetarian was really great because we'd go to like all these vegan, like whenever we went out, like we would go to like vegan restaurants. Like that was the greatest part about Spain. Is like, to be fair, Spain doesn't have a lot of it. The culture is very focused on meat and like ham and like beef and stuff like that. Yeah. Maybe not beef, but a lot of ham and lots of bread and ham, and so it's kind of difficult there. But in more of the downtown areas, there's a lot of vegan restaurants. But it was great because we go there together and we get like 2 different dishes and split it, so we could try different things. It was just like it was like above and beyond amazing.
I totally feel you.
Know?
Yeah. That was the biggest problem for me in Hong Kong and in Asia was I was trying to find a friend group who was like vegetarian or vegan. Yeah. But the friends that I ended up being friends with were not.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't want to go to a vegan restaurant, which was like,
that sucks. Yeah.
It sucked for me.
And the food's always so good. Like, I mean, maybe it's a little bit selfish, but like, I'm like, vegan restaurants usually have like very outstanding food. Yeah. Like, because they lack like a certain like element of like of what food is,
They have to work harder.
They work harder, and like they create things that just taste like
I think that's fair.
Explosions of beautiful flavor.
And I think a lot of people don't get that.
They take me to Flavor Town.
I think a lot of people don't understand that actually vegan restaurants, I mean...
Because I think a lot of people only see vegan stuff when they go to like meaty restaurant, like you're at like a burger place or like a steak and grill or something, and you're like, oh, here's this like weird like,
I think that's
fake eggplant parmesan or something, and they're like, what? Like they're prodding it with a fork. They're like, what did you order?
I think that's especially true here in Canada.
Yeah.
Because most of the vegan places that I've gone to here are like burger places, and they'll have like fake burgers, but in Asia, it was not that at all. I would go to places that are like soups and just amazing different kinds of food. Like
I went to this one place where it was like an all vegan like cafe and like restaurant, and they first of all they had like a plate of the day. It had a special name for their restaurant, but it was just like this like it wasn't like a Buddha bowl type thing, but it was like just a plate of like homemade like just vegan deliciousness. It was crazy. It didn't look like like a plate of food. It was like all kind of mixed. It looks like if you're at like a grandmother's house and she just like scoop food, just like food onto a plate. That was amazing. But they also had a gong, and they were like, whenever the gong hits, take a minute to like reflect on yourself. Like everybody be quiet and take a minute to reflect on yourself. And I was like, what is this new agey place? But this is amazing. I want to come here all the time.
I don't know if you've heard about this. I have, because it's really big in Asia. But there's this lady, she's called like the Grand Master or something like that. She's like famous like in Asia. Like she has like a bunch of followers.
Okay.
And she's vegan. And so she has like a bunch of restaurant chains.
Oh, cool.
And a bunch of different restaurants, and they like show her propaganda on like the TV in the restaurant.
Yeah.
And everything's vegan always at her restaurants, but they're usually not like her own. They're usually like just like these people are like, yeah, we'll start a restaurant, and they just use her branding.
Okay, yeah.
And it's super big there.
Wow.
It's in other places in the world too. It's they have one in Vancouver, I think even.
Yeah.
I forgot what the exact brand is called. Maybe I'll find it in a little bit, but it's crazy. I was like astonished when I realized and learned about it. I was like, what? There's some... Oh, she's called the Supreme Master. That's what she's called.
The Supreme Master. Was there a lot of vegan places that you could go to if you so choose in like Hong Kong?
So Hong Kong was like a mixed bag. Hong Kong had about like 48 vegan restaurants. Yeah, I know. I figured that out.
Specificity.
And so yeah, but the thing is, they were far, so I'd have like a longer commute to get there. But they did have a lot of vegetarian restaurants, so that was kind of
interesting.
A good thing.
Yeah.
It's because a lot of parts of Asia have large Buddhist communities, generally speaking.
Okay.
So like Vietnam, for example, Vietnam was like phenomenal. It literally every restaurant I went to had a vegetarian or vegan option.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was awesome.
That's
like,
great.
That was
I just
great.
found in Europe in general, I mean, Spain was harder. I think Spain itself is a little bit more, like it's very much about its own like food culture, which is an interesting food culture and not exactly my cup of tea. But I found just in general in Europe, there's a lot more vegan options than I've found, like more like regularly available vegan options at like just general restaurants than I found here in Canada, which surprised me. Like I went to Florence, Italy, and that was like crazy. There's vegan options everywhere. There's so many restaurants, and it was really surprising to me because it wasn't a place where I was like, well, I'll go to Florence for the vegan food, but I did. It was delicious, and it was everywhere.
That's right, and just like you said, Daniel, lasagna isn't the same without that meaty texture.
No, speaking of Italy.
Have you ever wondered how you can make any food more nutritious, more so-called meaty, and just better overall? Well, I have, and it's called red lentils. That's right. Drop a dab of red lentils into any dish that's lacking something. Feel free to try it in your pastas, your lasagnas, and hell, why don't you even throw it into your morning protein shake? Try red lentils today. Visit your local grocery store or Whole Foods to find a bag of red lentils and get cooking. Try red lentils today. And thank you, Red Lentils, for sponsoring today's episode.
Thank you very much, Red Lentils.
Now, Daniel, I'd like to get on to the topic of honey.
Okay.
It's today's question of the day.
Ooh.
So, as a vegetarian, as a flexitarian
Sure.
sometimes
Yeah.
in a way. What's your stance on honey?
Honey's expensive, so I don't usually eat it. But I have eaten it in the past. I mean, I'm not opposed to eating honey. I don't think. I think if you're vegan, you shouldn't eat honey, and because I feel like it's not vegan. But I will say that I do eat honey on occasion.
Well, see, in the vegan world, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, it's kind of a...
Is it more of a matter of debate?
Yeah, it is a bit of a controversial subject. I think
Oh.
there are... Because there are vegans who think that that honey is vegan.
Okay.
I don't, personally.
Okay.
And that's, but I understand where they're coming from. There's some vegans who talk about how you can use the kind of the excess honey
Mm-hmm.
if you have like a really good farm, but a lot of them
Like
talk
there's
about
ethical ways to like procure
yeah. So
honey.
so that's one of the arguments, is to say that there's an ethical way to get honey. So
Yeah.
if you have a really small farm, you're very careful. You're actually very good with your bees. You're there to help the bees grow and live, and not there to harm them.
Yeah.
And they feed off of the honey versus off of sugar, which
Okay.
is what general farms do.
Yeah.
Then it's okay because you're just taking the excess. So what do you think about?
I mean, I'm like, in my opinion, I feel like that's totally okay. I feel like there's ethical ways to approach many of these things. Like even for like talking to some of my friends who are like, I don't know, like who are vegetarian, they're like, I don't know if I'll be vegetarian forever. Like maybe I will be going back to like eating meat, but I'll only eat ethically like raised meat. And like at a certain point, like I've kind of gotten over some of my animal empathies a little bit, where I'm like that's not sustainable. First of all, it bothers me when people are like, we can like what if all farming was like ethically like done, like then we could eat meat. I'm like, but that's not sustainable. There's so many people eating meat. There's no way, like for the land requirements, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But I think we're in Canada. There's a privilege to like being here, and there's a lot of like you can find like ethically raised meat. I think pretty easily. I think that's a good option for people who aren't willing to give up meat. I don't think I will ever take that option because I'm not going to be eating meat. But it kind of also relates to the honey thing. I think like there's an ethical way to like get honey, then it's just fine, you know. Like, but I know like, oh my god, I'm dying. In some like farms, like you clip the queen bee's wings and stuff to keep her there.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's pretty like.
Or again, you feed them corn
feed them
syrup.
Exactly, instead of like the actual honey that they
nutritious.
need. Yeah, so I feel like it's a very interesting question. I don't even know how you would like. I don't know the logistics of how you would like do it, like ethically farm honey. Yeah, and I would assume most honey that we have comes from like big beekeeping operations, right?
Yeah. I mean, going to the grocery store, I mean, most of the time, what you're gonna see, not just in honey, but in everything, it's just large scale. You're never gonna see any like small farm.
Yeah.
Even the people who eat farm raised meat.
Yeah.
Or grass fed meat or whatever. I mean, that's still coming from a huge
big
farm
yeah.
most of the time.
Yeah, it's different from like knowing your local butcher or something.
Sure. Yeah.
It depends
obviously,
on your point of view. There's so many different levels to being okay with these different things.
Right.
But I have a friend whose like family out in like Europe has bees, and they like it's like not a real operation. It's kind of like a hobby thing. Like they have like some bees, and so they have. So sometimes she brings back honey, and I think that's pretty sweet. Pun intended. Because I think that's like I mean again, I don't even know if these bees are being treated well, but I feel like that type of operation is kind of cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like it feels better to me. And also at the same time, we're like talking about insects and stuff. Like, isn't there like I feel like one argument against like treating honey as like a real like we can't eat it as vegans, or you can't eat it as a vegan, is that it's like it's a pretty small detail to have. Like the bees aren't bees aren't really dying in the process. Like, I mean, they're not being treated well. But I mean, like, we're talking about insects when, like, shouldn't we be focusing on, like, it's such a small thing to get worked up over when we, like, it kind of makes it inaccessible to become vegan if we, like, keep presenting these, like, smaller and smaller things.
Interesting. So,
I don't know, though.
I mean, the way that I have understood it is the general... So there's different species of bees.
Okay.
Let's start there.
I want to come out and say this. I know nothing about bees.
Yeah. I'll brief you quickly as I can.
Perfect.
There's different species of bees.
Mm-hmm.
And I may be wrong, so, I mean, call me out on it if I am.
Call me by your name.
Yeah. But there's different species of bees. And the general honey-making bee species that is present in North America actually comes from Europe.
Okay.
And so what happens a lot of the time is that, so there's several problems, right? So the first problem is that the large-scale operations, they feed the honeys glucose or just corn syrup instead of feeding them honey.
Okay.
That's the first problem. The second problem, like you said, the clipping bees, keeping them in a small space, smoking them out, stuff like that.
Yeah.
The third problem is that when these large-scale operations come into a town or into an area, what happens is, yes, you're bringing in bees, and yes, I mean, we need bees, right? In theory. Well, like, not in theory, but we need bees for our plants.
Yeah.
The problem is that honey-making bees are actually not as... they're not suited for the environment a lot of the time to spread pollen in the same way that the wild bee populations are.
Okay, yeah.
So when you bring in honeybee populations, you're actually a lot of the time going to kill off the wild populations in the area. And you are making, I mean, pollen more of a problem. That's actually one of the biggest problems with honey or bees we see all the time. You know, we need to save the bees. We're having a problem with pollen. One of the reasons is because of honey, because we're bringing these populations into places where we kill off the wild population. Yeah. So in that respect and overall, I mean, I don't consume honey.
Yeah.
It's super hard. It's crazy. Honey is like, right now, probably honey is the hardest thing for me. Because,
really?
Yeah.
Is it in like a lot of things?
It's in a lot of things. Like
not,
cereal. I went to Costco.
And they're not
the other
like
day.
substitutes. They don't use like honey substitutes?
Nope.
I feel like that would be very expensive.
No, they don't use sugar. They don't use anything else. It's just honey.
Huh.
And like I'm like reading it and I'm like, oh yes, this is vegan. And then I'm like, oh, honey.
Yeah. Interesting. I
It's
didn't think that would be
hard.
such an issue.
Yeah, no. Honey's the hardest thing right now for me. I've gone over all the other barriers.
Yeah.
Honey is now like
the last
the hard one. Yeah.
So yeah, that's very interesting. Honestly, it as much as I want to save the bees or like help bees because they're animals or whatever, it's very hard for me to care about insects. It's very hard for me to like not on the same level as like a pig or something. Yeah. Like for some, like it's just easier for me as a perceiving human being to like empathize with a pig and be like, I don't want this pig to die. It's a pig. Yeah. You know, it's running around it as its kids. But like a bee, it just becomes like a whole. I'm almost laughing at how absurd it kind of sounds to be like, well, the bees, you know, we got to take care of these bees. But maybe that's just because I've been kind of trained that way my whole life to like be kind of dismissive of that stuff. But it just seems pretty wild to me. Yeah. You know, it's just like kind of a foreign idea.
And I mean, there's lots of people who have the same view.
And I can rationalize it in my mind. I'm like, I totally get it. And I personally try not to eat like honey whenever I can. But like talking about it in a very intellectual stance, I'm like, well, who cares about bees? You know.
Like, I care about bees.
I don't know if I care about bees.
Ruchi cares.
Ruchi cares about bees.
Yeah, and the bee experts and the bee...
Are bees still, like, dying? Wasn't that, like, not a thing anymore?
I know you're joking, but...
No, yes. I thought it was a thing where, like, we were, like, we kind of...
They are dying.
These, like, bees.
No, not that I know of.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's one for the listeners to look up. I don't want to be spreading hashtag fake news on this thing.
Yeah, that's right, Daniel. And did I hear you say broccoli? That pesky vegetable that no one ever liked as a kid. Well, I've got some news for you. Believe it or not, broccoli has not only been rebranded, but they have even changed color. That's right. Broccoli has gone from dark green to a bit light dark green. So now that you've changed and broccoli has changed, maybe it's time for you to give broccoli a second chance. No vegetables should be left on the sidewalk. So when walking past your next busking broccoli, pick it up, maybe eat it raw, maybe throw it in a pot of water, or hell, you can even steam the damn thing. Give broccoli a chance today. Thanks, broccoli, for sponsoring today's podcast. So now, Daniel, comes maybe the most interesting part of the day.
Okay.
Time for the taste test.
Ooh, I love it. That's why I signed up.
I had a really good taste test thing.
Okay. What was it?
It was going to be these tempeh vegan bacon strips or something like that.
My mouth is watering.
I forgot them
God.
in my house. So we're going to be trying an accidental vegan item that you can find at your local gas station, which is what I did. They are called Twizzlers. Ooh, that crackling sound.
Yeah, hear that?
Really nice. Some people won't like it.
Some people, the crackling sound?
Yeah. It's
but now you
very
can
loud.
Now you can add an ASMR tag onto your thing.
It's true. This is ASMR.
Thank
here you are, Daniel.
He handed me a licorice.
Yeah, I'll take one as well. So we're going to be evaluating Twizzlers for their taste, their structure.
There's a criteria. Sorry, keep going. I love it.
Their look, their feel, whatever you want. Have you ever tried Twizzlers before?
I've been privy to the joy of Twizzlers before.
Yeah, as have I.
Just as like the look and feel, it's spiraled, but at the bottom it's kind of flat to rest easy.
I think that's where they cut it.
Yeah, and so I really like the design.
Have you heard that you can make a Twizzler straw?
Yes, I think they sell them actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that one. That's interesting.
Yeah, but it's pretty wild. It feels like maybe it should be sticky, but it's not. It's good in your hand.
It's like a little sticky.
It's a little sticky, but there's no sticky residue.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it's red. And now I'm gonna go in for the taste.
All right, I've already taste tested mine.
Yeah, Dan's already chunked his.
Let's hear his first reaction. Oh, it's so loud. How is it, Daniel?
It's good. It's good, man.
Yeah. Yeah, Twizzlers are pretty good.
Twizzlers are delicious.
I think they're...
I don't know what else I expected. It was really good.
Yeah, they're a good candy for your accidental vegan needs.
Maybe not great candy. Because it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Do you ever need a snack?
It's just nice to,
grab a Twizzler, grab a thing of hummus. Start gnawing down.
Right, that's the real way to be vegan.
Hot tip.
Twizzlers and hummus. Amazing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like them. I think they're good. I think this is probably one of the best taste tests we're going to have on the show.
Probably, though I would have liked that bacon, but these are delicious.
Yeah.
Does anybody not find Twizzlers delicious? Like, is there a... I feel like everybody likes a Twizzler.
I'm sure there's people that don't like Twizzlers.
Black licorice Twizzlers I don't like, though.
Yeah, I've heard... I should have got those ones.
Well, I wouldn't like that very much.
Yeah. So these do contain palm oil, which...
Okay.
Some vegans... I'm not in this yet, but some vegans will claim it's not vegan because of how bad it is for orangutans, I think.
Or the monkeys. Yeah, something like that.
The monkeys. But...
And I'm sure like a million other smaller
yeah, I'm sure there's
creatures
a lot of...
who live in those forests as well.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of badness associated with Twizzlers, but...
And palm oil isn't great, but that's a subject for another podcast.
Yeah, today was honey,
We're just enjoying the Twiz.
Yeah, we'll get to palm oil one week. They're good. I think they are sufficiently tasty. Nope.
Oh, no seconds?
Seconds are after the podcast. It's too loud for the podcast. Yeah. Are there any other kinds of candy that you like?
I like most candy. I was actually lucky. I think when I became vegetarian, I was never a big meat eater. And likewise, when I became, when I started to cut out dairy out of my diet, I was never really big into like chocolates and stuff like that.
Okay.
And so it like for me those two transitions have been pretty very easy. But I mean, there's lots of candies with gelatins in them that I don't that I do eat.
Yeah. So
I like candy.
Yeah. So you still eat gelatin.
I still eat gelatin. That is correct.
That
because,
one's also really hard for.
That one's really hard. And I'm like, what is it? Gelatin comes from bones, right? Bone marrow or something?
Yeah, I think it's pig bone marrow most of the time.
And you're like, well, I mean, they're not using it. What a terrible... terrible...
Yeah, that's definitely... It's definitely the worst argument you could have
given. They're not using it. No, I'm kidding. But I do like it, so I eat it.
Do you think you might try to be more careful in the future with gelatin or with honey or with anything?
Yeah, definitely. I think as I move kind of further on my path to veganism, those things will probably be some of the more last things to like go.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
definitely be things on the journey.
And it and it is a journey. And I mean, I haven't talked about this on this podcast, but
you eat beef. You're vegan,
no, I don't. But all of my friends that ask me how to go vegan or whatever, I always stress that it's a journey and it's not a one overnight kind of thing because there's just a huge learning curve.
Yeah, which is why your podcast is so great because it really provides an opportunity to learn about it. And I think that's one of the biggest things that is hard because like I can cut out meat. Like I know what meat is.
Yeah.
I can cut out cheese because I know what cheese is. But then you have to be like you have to replace these things with something, right? You have to be making food. Like what are the different ways? And,
and that's why we have a recipe portion too.
Ooh, a recipe portion.
Yeah, we'll get
but it gets so specific. You're like, oh, this grain or like this. Like it gets so much more complicated than what cooking or food was beforehand. And I think that's a big issue, especially for people who leave veganism or vegetarianism because they're like, I'm not getting the right nutrients. And like you don't know that you're not,
Yeah, and I think that there's
doing it wrong.
There's also steps to veganism. So like, for example, I don't claim that I'm the best vegan. I know I'm not the best vegan, and there are things that I will change.
Don't sell yourself short. You're a great vegan. You're right up there besides Master Supreme Lady.
Thank you.
But
it's definitely like it's a category and getting to like a level of veganism is hard.
Yes.
So I get it. I think gelatin is an important one, personally.
Yeah, it feels
to get to.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll think about it next time.
I agree, but I'm just like I think where I'm at as a human being. Yeah, honestly, I think I feel like I have the mentality of an old person, and I'm like, well, for example, sometimes I take long showers, and I'm like, well, I've saved so much gosh darn water. By not eating meat like as a regular person would today, I think I could stay in the shower for an extra 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm a person who does that, and I think that says a lot about
what
I am as a vegetarian.
I remember very early on in my process when I just went vegetarian or something like that.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody and we were talking about the environment because my journey involved the environment. It was one of the earlier kind of things for me. And I was talking to this girl, and I was like, yeah, so I'm not eating meat now because I learned that it's really bad for the environment. You waste a lot of water. And she's like, well, I take really short showers and still eat beef. And I was like, no, girl, that's not how it works. And I tried to explain that to her, and I don't think she got it. I think she still eats meat. But meat has this kind of, the biggest problem with giving up meat, and a lot of people that have trouble giving up meat is that it's like ingrained in them to think that it's okay and a lot of people don't understand that from a vegan perspective it's not okay.
Is there meats that you miss?
Not anymore.
You don't miss any meat?
No.
You're never out with friends who get some meat like a specific type of meat and you're like, oh, that was good?
Occasionally still I'll miss cheese and stuff.
Okay.
But
interesting.
I don't at all. I did miss chicken for a while, but because
There's
I
no,
went.
like, there's no specific like type of dish that you miss, like that you can't have. Because I know for me,
No.
like I don't miss meat in general, but I do miss. There's like two different things I think I miss. I miss like really cheap like chicken burgers, like from like McDonald's, like a junior chicken, which is like disgusting. It's probably because it has sugar in it. And there's something. What else did I miss? Somebody just had it the other day, and I was like, oh my god. Oh, it was like smoked meat, where it's like like deli style smoked meat, and for some reason I was just like, I did miss that, but never enough to like ever make me actually want to stop being vegetarian.
So my journey involved like literally the first thing I did. I was like, I wanted to get healthier and lose a bit of weight.
Okay.
And at the time I was living in residence at university, and across the street was Burger King.
Okay, yeah.
And I'd go there all the time to get a chicken burger. And one day I was like, this is disgusting. I need to stop. So that I actually don't miss that at all, because
so
that was
funny.
the
You're
first
opposite.
thing for me. I used to miss, like I said, chicken nuggets or chicken tenders, because I actually I ate a lot of chicken as a kid and not a lot of beef. I never really liked beef, but I ate a lot of chicken. But I have found really
Where does smoked meat come from?
good chicken nuggets. What do you mean?
Smoked like the deli style, like the kind of like red looking like smoked meat that goes on like it's like
Sure.
You should know. Delis are important. But I don't know what meat it comes from. I don't think it's beef. It doesn't look like ham.
It's definitely beef or ham.
It has to be from one of those
I think
animals.
I don't know.
It's probably from a specific.
I feel like
part of
this
it.
is not
This is not
a good
a part of your
part of
the podcast. Where
Yeah.
does smoked meat come from? Two vegans who don't know.
You can
I'll Google it.
yeah. I don't really purchase meat, so that's also a thing.
Yeah, well, yeah. I remember I host a dinner party every year, and I've created it to be totally vegan now, but and I force all my meat eating friends to be vegan for a night.
Yeah.
But the year before I offered chicken.
Yeah, I remember.
And I bought chicken, and I was gonna prepare these chickens, and it was like, and I hadn't touched chicken or like purchased meat in like 8 years, like a very long time.
Gross.
And I started to have to like tenderize the chicken, and I was like, this is the body of a thing, and I freaked out. My mom had to do it. I really lost like my cool with it.
Yeah.
It was just so disgusting, and I didn't think I would have that reaction, because I like cooking. It's just like, I'll just be cooking this meat like everyone else in the world does. Yeah. But it really got to me for some reason.
Yeah, when I was pescatarian, I had the same problem. I like if I because I was still like whatever with me, like it wasn't like a big deal for me. And if my family was like, "Hey, I need you to do this," I'd be okay with it. And then I realized how gross it was. Or I did a thing where I bought meat for one of my videos once.
Yeah.
And I had to hold it in my hand. And I remember I like literally went and like washed my hand immediately because it was disgusting.
Yeah.
But even cooked meat today, like my niece and my nephew, they eat meat. And so obviously occasionally I'll have to help them. That's not really my choice, right? That's like my sister's choice, but I'll help them. And I think my sister has learned now that I don't like doing it, so they don't make me do it as often. But it was a big challenge for a little bit there.
That does sound like a real challenge.
Yeah.
Just as an update, smoked meat comes from brisket, which is a part of a cow.
Beef, yeah.
So it's beef.
Yeah.
Which makes me feel worse.
Daniel,
yes.
Daniel, did I hear you say avocado toast?
You did indeed.
Have you ever felt like spending $4 on toast was too little? Or that being hip was too mainstream for you?
I don't mean to interrupt the ad. The other day I went out to get brunch with some friends, and I went to this like vegan like brunch place, and I spent like $8 plus tip on like one piece of toast. It wasn't 2 pieces of toast. It was 1 piece of toast. On like kind of a thick cut bread, and there was avocado. There was like spinach.
Yeah.
And I think that was it. And I was like, I ordered it. I was like, hey, like it's breakfast. Like we're all getting breakfast. And then it came to me, and I just saw like 1 piece of toast with avocado on it. I was like, who am I? What have I done?
Yeah, that's downtown Toronto.
Anyway, back to your wonderful ad. And I was so happy to buy it because avocado toast.
Yes,
great.
It's time to try avocado toast. It's sure to break the bank, and you're gonna have to sell your house and maybe your car. But boy, is it worth it. Avocado toast. Taste that sweet, sweet, green, smooth texture today. You can find it at your local hipster coffee shop, or heck, make it yourself. All you need is some bread, sans honey, and avocado.
Yeah.
Maybe sprinkle some salt and pepper on it, and you've got what all the kids are raving about right now. Avocado toast.
Sometimes I'll put hummus
Don't-
on it too.
Let it slip through your fingertips.
I love it. I actually, you know those like posts online where people like cut open their hands from trying to cut avocados? That happened to me like 18 times in Europe because
my God.
avocados are so cheap there. And just in like Spain, avocados were like so cheap, and I ate so many of them, which really made the likelihood of me like just gashing open my hand a real possibility. It never happened, but it did come close. There was a couple times where, like the knife was like, "What cool?" And I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, I know that
I
feeling.
don't even know where the hospital is in this country.
And thanks to Avocado Toast for sponsoring today's
Thank you so
episode.
much. How much they paying you? How much is Big Avocado paying you?
Undisclosed. So as today's final segment, I've got a recipe for everybody.
Amazing.
Before we get to it, do you want to say anything, Daniel? Do you have any comments?
Yeah, I feel like I'm all over the place as a vegetarian or pseudo vegan, which I'm not. I'm a vegetarian, I guess. I'm all over the place with my diet. I feel like that's an important. I feel like that's an important type of person. There's so many of us out there. There's a lot of good vegan boys like you, good vegan girls, you know, good vegan in betweens. I don't know, but geez, I'm losing my train of thought. Basically, all I'm saying is there's a lot of people like me out there, and if I could address a message to all the people like me, the people who eat gelatin even they know it comes from pig bones, all the people who eat gravy on Thanksgiving because it's delicious, and you could have just asked your grandma for mushroom gravy, but for some reason you still don't. The people like that out there, it's okay. We're in this together. As long as you're trying your best, you're doing much more than most people to like improve the world around you. And I salute you.
Yeah.
Vegans might not salute you. Meat eaters might criticize you as well. But we're in this together. And you're out there making the world a good place. I believe in you.
And like I said at the beginning, this is a no pressure zone.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you do you. I'll just, we just talked about everything, and I think you've learned some things, which is great.
I've learned some things about beef.
I learned some things about you.
I learned where brisket comes from.
Yeah.
Not going to be helpful in my life, but it's a piece of knowledge I now have.
All right, weirdo. Whatever.
Okay, weirdo.
So today's recipe comes from Hot for Food. You can find it at hotforfoodblog.com. It's for easy vegan crepes. This recipe makes 8 to 9 crepes. You're going to need crepe batter, which makes about 3 cups.
And about 7 to 8 friends.
2 cups of 00 soft wheat flour, 1 1/2 tablespoon of granulated sugar, 1 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, 2 tablespoons of melted vegan butter, 2 2/3 cups of non-dairy milk, and for the savory filling, you're going to need 16 ounces of cremini mushrooms, thinly sliced, 2 garlic cloves, minced, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 1 bunch of asparagus, bottom trimmed, an 1/8 teaspoon of nutmeg, an 1/8 teaspoon of smoked paprika, a double batch of the Hot for Food hollandaise sauce, obviously on their website you can get that, and fresh dill for garnish. Now, in a large bowl, whisk together flour, sugar, and baking powder. Then add in the melted vegan butter and start whisking while you pour in the non-dairy milk. The batter should be very thin and loose. Your skillet or crepe pan should be over medium heat. You'll need to adjust the temperature as you go as the pan gets hotter. Pour about 1/3 cup of batter on the pan, lift it off the burner. As soon as the batter hits the pan, twist and turn the pan in large circles to make a thin layer of batter in an even circle just out to the edge. After about 1 to 1 1/2 minutes, you'll notice the sides of the crepe starting to lift off the pan. At this point, you can flip it with a large spatula. Let it cook for another minute and then remove onto a large plate and cover with a tea towel to keep warm. You can also reheat the crepes in low temperature oven, about 200 Fahrenheit, before assembling crepes for serving. Now cook the mushrooms in the same pan or a cast iron skillet over medium heat with 2 tablespoons of olive oil for about 5 to 6 minutes. Once they're about halfway cooked through, add minced garlic and saute for another 4 minutes or so. Remove from the pan into a bowl and you can cover and keep warm. Wipe out excess liquid or residue in the pan and get it to medium-high. Add trimmed spears of asparagus in one layer across the pan. Sear on one side for 3 minutes. Season with nutmeg and smoked paprika, then flip, searing the other sides. You'll only toss once or twice as you're trying to char the asparagus in the hot, dry pan until just tender and bright green. The total cook time for these is about 6 minutes. Just before serving, heat up the hollandaise over low heat in a saucepan, whisking constantly to warm through. Add a bit of water if necessary to thin out. Fill crepes with sautéed mushrooms and spoonfuls of hollandaise. Add asparagus and fold the edges over each other, rolling out the crepes snugly. Then drizzle with more hollandaise on top and garnish with fresh dill. Serve immediately. Again, check out Hoffer Food on YouTube or hofferfoodblog.com for the recipe. I'd like to thank today's sponsors, Red Lentils, Broccoli, and Avocado Toast. I'd like to thank Daniel and you, the listeners, for being here with us today. If you have a question, a suggestion, you want to be a sponsor, or you want to be on an episode, send us an email at veganambitionpodcast@gmail.com. And thank you, everyone, and have a great day. Any comments?
I love it. Have a great day.
The podcast you just heard was recorded with Anchor. If you want to make your own, download the Android or iOS app completely free from anchor.fm/podcast. That's anchor.fm/podcast.